Welcome to Angels Talk, Soul Relationships. Here's your host, SANDRA LYNCH.
Hello. Thank you for taking your time to stop, look, and listen in our divine appointment here today on another fun-filled episode of Angels Talk. I'm Sandra in a soul relationship, and here with the one, the only one, Brian Stewart, the Brian Stewart of Boat Angel. Hi, Brian.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm so excited. You can see I can barely sit on my seat, Brian.
Plus, I know it's rather hot here in Arizona.
Yeah, we're at the, I want to say, Hotel Arizona. Yes.
It's cooled down. I think it's only about 110 in the shade. It was 120 yesterday.
Well, I don't feel a thing, Brian, because I am genuinely so excited and honored to be in your presence to share everything about Boat Angel.
Well, thank you very much. We're glad to be here, and thank you when you came to town for taking the time out to meet with us.
Can I tell everyone how I found you?
Sure you can.
I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, driving on Coliseum, and I looked up and I saw a billboard. It was a boat. It had wings on it. I became so excited. Could you share a little bit about what is going on with Boat Angel?
Well, Boat Angel branched off of our charity Car Angel, and it was started for the express purpose of helping a huge hospital ship receive funding, and particularly for one operating room. They were building a ship that was 562 feet long. It was being sent to Africa, and they had to scuttle one. It was just so old, just couldn't be repaired anymore. There was literally, every time they docked in Liberia and up and down the east coast of Africa, there was lines a mile long of people needing operations. Some had huge goiters, some had, kidney operations, just all types of operations. And we had become aware of mercy ships through one of our mutual friends who was on their board. And with Car Angel, we are sponsoring a lot of organizations. And with Boat Angel, we said, well, let's try to help them, taking unwanted, donated orphan boats, turning them into funds, and building this beautiful operating room. And we've been at it for about 3 years and managed to get it almost all built. They've launched the ship now, and they're sending it over to Africa as we speak. They have a Starbucks coffee shop on there donated by Starbucks with all the coffee supplies. They have hotels. The Prime Minister of England, Tony Blair, was there to see it off and crack the bottle into the hull as they do, and it's now known as the largest hospital ship. We're just a small part of it, but it's through our billboards, contributed by sponsors such as Clear Channel, Lamar, CBS, Viacom, that we're able to reach even people in your area of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I know your show's on in Phoenix and New York as well. And we're able to get our message out that if you have an older boat, you're not using it, it's just churning up fees or collecting leaves, that you could donate, and we'll turn those funds into money that'll help others.
That's truly beautiful, the story, the unfolding story of how this goes along. And as I'm sitting here thinking about Africa, I'm thinking, I want to be on that boat. I want to go with this show, and it's another seed, to go there. When will that happen?
Well, we'll certainly introduce you to Holly. She's in charge of all the PR. They've had the BBC on there. I'm sure they'd welcome your show with open arms. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a long flight over there.
Is it?
Basically, I've only flown to Africa twice. Once I went to Ethiopia, and once I went to Nigeria, and I think each time was about 20 hours on the plane. You go from here, you go to England usually, or to Germany, and then you take one of the flights down. There's no really direct right on there. You got to land to Europe first.
Well, Brian, truly, this is a dream for me. This is part of the vision, the television journey of Angels at God Central Station, for you to be here today with all this. It's one world, one dream, in the spirit of unity.
Well, we're excited that our message gets out. We know that cable access and public access TV is really popular in a lot of spots, that people are looking for shows where they connect at the community level, looking for shows that are a lot of times made by their friends and neighbors, that aren't meant just for commercial exploitation, but are truly what the media of television was created about, to communicate. Whether it be a church communicating about their cooking ministry, or somebody into exercise communicating how to do yoga or how to do Pilates or whatever, we know that public access is the way a lot of information gets out.
Well, and too, if I might add, that it allows people to do what they need to do with little or no money.
Yes, that's
And
true.
creativity, it is so important for creativity and exposure for the needy, for the places that need help. So I'm honored to be here with it, and for you to recognize that, that's a very big kudo. Thank you.
Well, one of the ministries of a nonprofit is every year I'm familiar with how the nonprofits file their tax returns. It's called a 990 return. And the IRS and all the donors want to know, well, how much did you use for program expenses? How much did you use for office and general maintenance? How much did you do for fundraising? So, and what happens as media giants, take over
See
more and
that.
more of the media, newspaper ad, a reasonable newspaper ad for a donated car or boat could be $1,000, and it's only this big.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And a TV commercial on a main station could be, during the Super Bowl they sell commercials for $1 million. So, but
Yes.
even on prime time, it could be an easy $20,000-$30,000 a week, just for a small 30-second commercial that sort of shoots on by. And what we found at Boat Angel and Car Angel was that, when you have a charity that you have a distinctive purpose, and one of our purposes is, right now it's been shifted to handing out kids DVDs. Well, it's not the same purpose as Red Cross, not the same purpose as Salvation Army, because the people that founded those organizations did so during the time of depression, the time of need. Red Cross started to aid soldiers. Now they do disaster release. Salvation Army started as a marching band to get people out of the bars and saloons in England and Canada.
And they did an awesome job, and they're still doing an awesome job.
But the world has changed.
Yes. Yes.
Those needs haven't changed. The disaster relief hasn't changed. The needs that people have that are alcoholics haven't changed. The needs to help families hasn't changed. But what has changed is our society has become much, much more media conscious. It says the average American watches 7 or 8 hours of TV a day. They could either watch things that are good for them or things that are bad for them. The average kid will spend 5 or 6 hours a week or a day in front of the television.
Or on the internet.
On the internet, they could watch things that are helpful to them or negative. We have a lot of cities in the U.S., Baltimore in particular. We're about to do an outreach there through our Boat Angel and Car Angel. 70% of the kids that go to high school don't graduate, and out of those that don't graduate, 30 to 40% go to prison, commit crimes. So basically, your first graders, you could look at 100 first graders and say, these 25 will be in prison by the time they're 18 years old. And those are statistics we care about, because I have nieces and nephews and live in Maryland. But besides that, I'm a taxpayer like everybody else, and I would much rather use my income to send somebody to Stanford, where it's $40,000 a year, than to send them to Baltimore Correction Center, where it's $40,000 a year, or Maryland State Prison, where it's $38,000 a year, or Indiana State Prison, where it's $35,000 a year. I mean, the cheapest bed in the cheapest prison in the U.S. is still $25,000 per year per prisoner.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Now tell me, in 4 years, that most Americans could not get a decent education.
Now, you brought other things with you besides your donkey clue?
Donkey Ollie.
Donkey Ollie. Ah, I said, get a clue with this Donkey Ollie. This right here. Tell us a little bit about that, Brian.
Well,
that's
I don't know if you want
specifically
me
for.
to zoom in on it.
I love it. Love thy neighbor. How fitting.
Years ago, when I was just in the regular business world, importing antiques, I made a decision as a writer to share my writing, not so much getting it in the airport bookstores, the Barnes & Noble and the other places, the Fry's grocery stores on the rack jobbers, but I really wanted to see the books I had done sort of make an impact with people that really would read them.
Yeah?
Now, the average American probably has 200 books in his home.
Oh, I read 2 or 3 books a week,
Yeah.
Brian.
And it doesn't take too long before they stack up in the living room, they stack up in the armoire, they're in this closet until you finally break down and you realize there's about half of these you're not going to read again. And you take them down, you donate them to Salvation Army, Goodwill, send them out to people and share with them. But we knew that there was a captive market in the prisons. We had started getting, just from the small amount we had shipped out back then, we started getting letters from chaplains. Our library's empty, please send us books. Again and again. And I'd go in my closet and I'd find every single, of course I didn't want to send them anything that wasn't really suitable and wholesome for them. So I'd look for just uplifting stories, and I'd send out this box of my personal books, this box of my other ones. And then it dawned on me, this prison has 2,000 people, and I'm only able to send them 40 books. So and that was a big deal for me. I drained out my closet, went down, I stood in line at the post office and sent them out media mail. It was
you
$14.
saw cause for a great effect. Yeah.
So we took some scripts that we had in books, and we went ahead and we said, well, why don't, instead of just sending 40 to one prison, why don't we send a box from 150 to 300 to each prison in the U.S., federal, military, state, youth. We'll take a look at how many prisoners in there, and we'll send enough books in so 1 out of 10 prisoners can have access at least to read the book.
Access. Angels at God's central station within them.
So,
yes, I couldn't help it, but that just came out of me, Brian. Access to the books, that's incredible.
So the style of books that we have were already had elements of, the fall from grace, the crime, elements of what kind of company people hang out to get in that realm, elements of what happens to the people that commit the crime and the results, and also a call to action where we're calling those very prisoners to take a look at their lives through the life of a fictional character and see that it doesn't have to be a revolving door. When you're young, one of the funnest things you can do is to go to a shopping mall and go round and round in that revolving door. But unfortunately for prisoners, when they go round and round the revolving door, they don't empty back out in the street. They empty right back out in their cell. And it goes from 4 years to second-time offenders to 7 years, to third-time offenders to lifetime offenders. And instead of society getting to redeem this person and really getting a dollar per dollar value, the society is still just breeding hardened criminals. The older criminal teaches the young con. We've seen shows like, The Prison Escape, Prison Break. Tremendously popular shows, but we're amazed by the violence, the tattoos, the stabbings. But that's the real world. We've created real hells on earth in America. So we like to think of these books, even though they have fairly, blunt titles like Death Sentence, Run for Your Life, View from Above. We like to think of these as not something that takes the negative element in society and capitalizes on it, but something that calls these people to action to let them know, hey, if you've messed up your life, if you've committed all these crimes and you're sitting there, you can't go back and change the past.
Wow.
You can't go back. If you robbed a 7-Eleven and knocked a clerk in the head, you can't unknock his head. If you've committed a crime of violence against a girlfriend, loved one, neighbor, and, raped somebody or done something terrible to a child or whatever, you can't go back and fix it. But you can be a helping hand to stop it from happening in the future. And when you get out, whether you're 40 or 50 or 60, if you spend your time, reading spiritual books, reading the Bible, reading uplifting things, you can change your